Hey, everybody. Before we get started today, I just wanted to remind you that we have a website, greenroomonair.com. greenroomonair.com. You can find all of my previous episodes there. Also, if you enjoy this podcast, please tell your friends. And hopefully we can continue to build our listenership. I'm starting to get some momentum on this podcast. I'm finding a lot of people who want to be guests. People are contacting me. And hopefully we can continue to grow with your help. Thank you so much for being a listener. And I would like to wish all of you a very merry and happy holiday season. It's been a rough couple of years, and I hope and pray that it gets better for everyone. Much love.
When you're weary, feeling small, when tears are in your eyes, I will dry them.
Ho, ho, ho. Hello, everybody. This is your host, Ray Renati. How are you? I hope you're doing great. What a wonderful rainy day it is today. We have a great guest for you today. My guest is hooked into the whole Broadway scene. He has a brand new album out called The Shards of an Honor Code Junkie. I love that title. His album, Shards, was under consideration for a Grammy this year, but it didn't make the final list, but just being on the short list is a big deal. It gained over 1 million streams in less than a month, and it debuted as the #1 musical theater album on Amazon, #2 on iTunes, and #12 on the Billboard charts. That's a big deal. It has surpassed 1 million streams on Spotify alone, and it was released with ND Reverse Records. His album details his experience growing up as a closeted gay in the Mormon community. Woo! Ooh, that's a touchy subject. Don't want to be a gay Mormon. That's for darned sure. And his name is Blake Allen, and I'll be speaking with him in just a moment here on the Green Room. But before we do that, I need to talk to you about something because I am really, really excited. I went to go see Steven Spielberg's West Side Story, the remake of the Bernstein, Sondheim, Jerome Robbins, Lawrence movie of 1961, although I think that they're saying this is a remake or a subset of the play, of the musical stage play, but whatever. This movie, and I'm going to say this right now, Spielberg's West Side Story, mark my words, will go down as a cinematic masterpiece. My friends out there in Green Room World, try to say that 10 times fast. Green Room World, Green Room World, Green Room, I can't do it. In Green Room Land, you must go see this movie, and you have to see it in a theater. It's made for the big screen. It's a feast for the eyes, a feast for the soul, a feast for the heart, and a feast for your ears. Run, don't walk to your nearest cinema. Buy a ticket, or bring a friend and buy 2 tickets to go see West Side Story. The musical features this wonderful, wonderful new actress. Let's see, what is her name? Oh, I had it here on my screen. I try to get all prepared, and then I have a hard time because I'm one of the most disorganized human beings you'll ever know. If you know me, you'll know that. I'm a fly by my seat of the pants kind of guy. I don't even think I said that right. Her name is Rachel Zegler. Now, I know that doesn't sound Latino, but I believe she's half Colombian. 30,000 young ladies auditioned for the role of Maria, and she got the part. Let me just say this. She's an angel in a human body. She has the face made for the camera. She's absolutely beautiful. Close-ups love her. Her acting is extraordinary, and her voice is of the heavens. I hope we'll be seeing more of her in the future and other things. I think she had played the role in high school, and I don't think she'd done much more acting than that. I love that. I love it when a non-Hollywood person gets a huge role like that. And one of the special things about this movie is Rita Moreno, who played Anita in the original film. She's now playing a new role, and she substituted the role of Doc. So they substituted her for the role of Doc, who was Tony's, what would you say, substitute father in the original movie and stage musical. Now, if you're not familiar with this, Tony is the equivalent of Romeo in Romeo and Juliet, because West Side Story is the modern day version of Romeo and Juliet. And Rita Moreno plays his surrogate mother, if you will, because in this version, Doc has passed away and she's still running Doc's drugstore, but Tony has to rely on her because Doc is gone. And Rita Moreno played Anita in the original film. And now, so many years later, 2021, how many years is that? So 1961 to 2001 is 40, and then another 20. So 60 years ago, she played Anita. And why did I even have to add that up? I was born in 1961 and I'm 60. Oy, oy, oy. It's interesting. I wonder how that is for her, getting older like that and then playing a very different role. A very different role. Let's see, what is her name? I forgot her name in this film. I'm going to look it up right here in my handy dandy Google IMDb. I forgot what they called her. West Side Story. Her name is Valentina. That's right, Valentina. They even have her singing the Somewhere song, which is usually sang by a voice off stage or Maria through a window when it's done on stage. They had her sing it, which was interesting. It was a nice touch. There was a sort of a montage happening. There are some other great things about this movie. First of all, let me see. I mean, visually and the choreography, the visual experience on the screen, the sound, the music, the acting is all superb, absolutely superb. And there are other things that are fixed. The Puerto Ricans are not white people in brown face, which is nice. They're actual Latino people. They are all given backstories, or a lot of them are. Whereas in the original story, they were not. We really didn't get to know the Puerto Ricans very much at all. In this one, we really get to know Bernardo in depth, and Chino as well, and Maria, of course, and Anita. But that's a given. There are all the anything racist that would be considered just ridiculous now are gone. There's no more disparaging talk in the lyrics about Puerto Rico. And it doesn't feel like they've cleaned it up either. As a matter of fact, you could say this is a rather dark West Side Story. It's a rather dark one. I don't think you'll be leaving the theater dancing. Let me just say that. I left the theater in tears, and it affected me for days. And often that's, for me, a mark of a splendid film. Or as the latest character on Curb Your Enthusiasm would say, splendid film. Go watch Curb Your Enthusiasm. I think episode 11 or 12. It's splendid. Anyway, West Side Story. Run, don't walk. And now, folks, without any further ado, my guest, the spectacular Blake Allen. So glad you could be here, Blake.
I'm so excited to be here.
Your music from your musical, I just loved it. I just loved it. Why don't you tell everybody what it's called?
Okay, it's called The Shards of an Honor Code Junkie.
Yeah, I love the title.
Thanks. It's it's very visual.
Yeah.
The Shards. Yeah.
The Shards. Yeah, it's like war.
Basically,
Yeah, yeah. So the Mormon Church. I guess it's kind of like war. The Mormon Church. I'm sorry. I hope I'm not offending any Mormons out there. Well, I mean, if you saw the Book of Mormon musical, I mean, that's way more potentially offensive than anything I could possibly say.
I mean, what's interesting about the Book of Mormon, the musical, is anything the Mormon characters say or do actually is 100% honest and true. And what Trey Parker and Matt Stone are really brilliant at is using truth as humor. Like in this song, he says, I believe that God lives on a planet called Kolob, which if you've never heard that before, it just sounds completely wild and it's funny. But if you're a Mormon seeing this show, you're like, I do believe that.
So that's an actual part of the there is a planet called Kolob in the Mormon religion or Latter-day
that's
Saints.
where God. That's where God lives. Yeah, on a planet called Kolob.
You know, what really struck me about your music, well, so many things. I mean, there's one thing that I love is the woman doing the narration.
Oh yeah.
What is her name?
Her name is Allison Fraser. She's a theater legend here in New York. She's been nominated for a bunch of Tonys. Yeah, and I wrote that specifically for her because I saw her do a one-woman show called Squeamish, where she sat in a chair for 90 minutes and just like spoke very quietly and told this story. And I was like, I have to use that. I have to use that skill she has to kind of bring people in and let them talk from her hands. So yeah,
I don't know what it is about her voice, but it draws me in and it creeped me out. I mean,
good. That's
I mean, I don't know if you used any special like equalization or anything on her, but it was. I'm trying to think of what it reminded me of. It reminded me like of the nuns in Catholic school or something, or maybe it was just her attitude.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Our producers told her to be very like exactly that, like very controlling.
Yeah.
You know, at the same time being like a mother reading a story, but
yes,
very, like, she's the puppet master in a little weird, creepy way.
It's brilliant. It's so creepy, and it draws you in, and you're like, "Oh my god, this is like it." The feeling it creates. I can see why your album did really, really well right away, right? I mean, it was number one on Amazon, and
it was number one on Amazon. It was number two on iTunes. It was the number one new musical theater album on the Billboard's charts. You know, we're never going to beat Hamilton, but it was the number one new one. So yeah, I think that people really are receptive to the like universality of the story, and I think that people haven't heard anything like it before. So I think it's interesting.
How did everyone hear about it? I hadn't heard about it. Was it all word of mouth? Was it?
I think it was word of mouth. I think it kind of, because of the subject matter, I think there was a lot of people who listened to it in Utah. It got a lot of plays and a lot of purchases in Utah and like the surrounding area. And so I think that people told their friends, and it just kind of like percolated through that kind of society. And then of course here in New York, in the theater community, because of the people that are on the album, there was interest. And so, yeah, I just think it was a word of mouth situation.
Yes. And I'll probably say this in the intro, but just in case, I want everyone to know what we're talking about if they just like skipped ahead of where, my beginning rant. We're talking about, this is Blake Allen, and he is a composer, I guess you would call yourself, right? Or a musician. Yeah. He has an album called The Shards of an Honor Code Junkie, which is a musical theater piece. Mm-hmm. And what would you say it's about? I mean, I know what it's about, but let you tell everyone.
It's an autobiographical story, so it's my story, but it's about a boy who grew up gay and goes to Brigham Young University, the Mormon university in Provo, Utah, and through following the honor code rules or breaking them, the character learns how to find self-love through the traumas that happen.
Yes. It's brilliant. And
thank you.
And one of the things, because I've been listening to musical theater for a long time, I'm a musical theater performer, and what I can tell you about this, and I'm so glad that I met you, is one of the things that you do really, really well, and this is just one of them, is your music matches the emotionality and the intent of the song, like sort of like Sondheim or Brecht.
Thank you.
It's so damn good.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hope. Do you think that are you trying to do a production of this, or?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of that's been my goal.
I know you've done readings, but
done readings and done concerts, and then I learned how to. I was in an okay place to release this, because it's my story. Sorry, my dog's talking.
No, it's okay.
I had to be okay to tell my story.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to make sure that it was told the first time anyone heard it in the way I wanted it told. So yes, of course I want it to be on the stage, but I really wanted it to be presented for the first time as this audio format, as an audio book, so that I kind of had complete control of the narrative.
Great, I see. Yeah, and oh, okay, so that's why it's so great to listen to, because a lot of musical theater pieces aren't designed to listen to in that way.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what I think that's why one of the reasons I really like listening, because I could tell it was produced to be listened to in its entirety.
It's not a shuffle album.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I mean, it was inspired by those old Disneyland records like Jungle Book, where there's the narrator and it goes in and out of song. Like that was really where that idea came from.
Okay.
Because I love old vinyl. And so I have a lot of those old storybooks.
Oh yes, I have a bunch of those in my closet. I was just telling my wife I got to pull these things out and get my old turntables out, and I have two of them. I don't know which one works, and listen to them again. Yeah. When did this come out?
The album came out September of 2021, so it's 3 months old, almost 3 months old. But I started working on it in 2012. So it's been almost 10 years of development to get to the point of releasing the album.
So you had some readings early on in like 2015 and...
Yeah. So I was an artist in residence at the Banff Center in Alberta, Canada, which is where I finished the first complete draft. And then I spent a year working on it and tinkering it with it and like finding the correct voices. And then we had a Actors Equity reading in 2015, and then a 54 Below concert. Then we had a Trevor Project concert in 2017, which was actually the 10th anniversary of my friend's suicide on that same day. So to raise money for Trevor Project. And then during the pandemic, I was like, now is the time. I released a classical album in the pandemic that was also successful, thankfully. And so I kind of used the momentum from that to be like, okay, now I'm ready to tell the story.
Well, I'm so glad you did. And I can't wait to see it on a stage, and I will fly back there, and I will love it. Yeah. So, who are some of the performers that you've worked with? Who are the people on the album?
So we've talked about Alison Fraser, and then Teal Wicks. She, was Elphaba in Wicked. She was Cher in the Cher Show. I specifically wrote that role for her because I saw she plays the role of my sister, or it's called Girl. I saw her in a concert, and it was scary how much she looked and sounded and acted like my sister. So I wrote the role for her. And then Michael Lowney, he plays the main character. He was in La Cage. Then Christy Cates, who is also in Elphaba. She was Elphaba in Chicago. She plays the mom. Drama desk award Kuhu Verma, who was just in Plan B on Hulu. She's kind of one of the friends. So I really worked with people I knew and have like cultivated a relationship outside of this album. So there's no one on the album I have not worked with before in some capacity.
That makes things a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you didn't have to have auditions or anything. You just asked people to be on it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess their audition was having worked with me before in a weird sense, but no, I just asked them because it was kind of, because of the subject matter and because it's such a personal story, I wanted to have people I trusted who also trusted me. And we were at the height of the pandemic. So, we were this was before vaccines. So we got tested and we were social distancing. So there also had to be that element of trust. So like Jay Harrison G, who right now is in Mrs. Doubtfire, he's a close friend of ours, me and my spouse's. And so it felt very nice to like be safe in the studio with someone I knew.
Yes, I've experienced that here in San Francisco too. There were a lot of Zoom performances and things, and it was mostly just people who knew each other. It's like, how are people getting all these things? Well, it's just their friends. Okay, good. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that that's ending. Oh man, the whole Zoom thing. Watching musicals on Zoom. Ugh.
I mean, I did one of those, in April of last year. I was approached by someone to write like a 30-minute one about someone who was trapped on a boat. So we've all done it.
That's great. Now, the musical is inspired by a tragedy in your life. Your best friend committed suicide. Yeah.
Yes.
What can you tell us about that? I mean, I know it's not a happy subject, but it happened.
It happened, and in the macabre way, his death kind of gave me life because it made me realize how special life is. So because of being gay and going to BYU, where I wasn't allowed to be gay, I could have been kicked out just for even presenting myself as a gay person in the world. When my friend died by suicide, I didn't really confront the trauma that it had created. And then I kind of pushed it down, pushed it in the drawer, and then graduated, went to grad school, moved to New York City. And then at the 5th anniversary of his death in 2012, I was like, I still have not, like, it's still affecting me. And I saw it like trickling out in parts of my life I didn't want it to. So then my therapist told me why don't you turn that trauma and start writing? Because you're a composer, you're a musician, like just write what you feel. So I started with, there's a song on the album called The Wasteland, which is right after the suicide. And it's my like reaction to my friend not being there, to God deserting me, to like myself deserting myself. And so I started there, and then that really helped. And so I just kept writing and used my journal entries from the time as inspiration, and just kind of developed it from that focal point.
Well, you can tell when you listen to it that there's so much heart in it, and it's
Thanks.
it's so sad that happened, but it's so great that you were able to use this tragedy to make something so beautiful for all of us.
Thanks.
And healing for you. It sounds like.
Yeah. Well, not even just healing for me. I mean, I'm very grateful. It has helped my healing process, but it's helped my family. It's helped other people who were at BYU. It's, I get messages, I would say, several times a week from current students who are sharing their stories with me secretly, or even people who aren't Mormon who are sharing similar, they grew up Jehovah's Witness, or they grew up in an intense Catholic, and they have similar stories. So that's what I wanted from the album, is a dialogue, and to kind of bring some comfort to people so they don't have to experience the same thing I experienced.
That's great. I mean, what a great service that is. Yeah, it's wonderful. So I'm also interested in, I'm here in San Francisco, and I have a lot of friends in the drag community, because I do cabaret singing, and there's a huge drag community here in the city. And I know that you're married to a pretty well-known drag performer, right? Or your partner?
I'm married to Marty Gold Cummings. They ran for city council this past cycle. So they were the first non-binary candidate and first drag queen candidate in New York City's history. And they did really well. It was a steep climb. They ended up getting second on election night. So that's pretty good for first time when you are a queer representative.
Yes. Wow. So
we're very impressed.
Did they run as the character? I mean, like, what? Yeah. So, like, I'm not sure how to say this.
No.
Yeah, because everyone has like two personas when you're in drag. Yeah. How did they run?
So Marty's name in and out of drag is Marty. So it's their drag name. Unlike most people, like Bob
that's
the drag
good.
Queen, that's now Bob the drag queen's real name in real life. So Marty's name as a drag artist or as themselves is Marty.
Oh, good.
So it was kind of synonymous. Sometimes they when they interviewed Kirsten Gillibrand when she was running for president during Marty's campaign, Marty was in drag. So it just kind of depended on what the event was. And because that's Marty's profession. So Marty's campaign manager, I think, really wanted people to be like, not to have Marty not shy away from that.
Yes. Well, that's great. And I guess that's exactly what I was wondering, was the name. Yeah. So that's very convenient. Especially if you're running for public office. It's like, wait a minute, I thought that person's name was, what else? Yeah. Do you know any of the drag performers out here?
I kind of know Meatball a little bit. I like met them. I don't know who has moved out there. I'm sure, like, if I saw a list, I'd be like, I know this person and this person, but I can't think
I think
of,
Donna Sachet is probably the most famous. I don't know if you know her. Yeah. Anyway, I mean, there's just so many people. I don't know it. I mean, I was looking yesterday. It's like, oh my God, I didn't even heard of these people. Yeah, it's a huge deal out here. Now, are you still up for a Grammy, or has that already been voted on?
It has already been. I didn't get the nomination, but I got on the long list, which is, it's the first time that's happened for me. So that's a huge deal for me. And it means a lot that people even cared enough to want that to happen. But I was not nominated.
Oh, okay. Well, at least you were on the list. I mean, come on.
Oh my gosh, I know. Right. I mean, the people who are nominated, it's like Burt Bacharach, Angela Lloyd Webber, Les Mis. So it's like, there's no way you're going to be nominated against those people.
Well, you never know. You never know. Once in a while,
you never know.
once in a while, someone sneaks in, gets past the politics. Yeah. Have you seen the new West Side Story movie yet?
I have not. I'm seeing it on Monday.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I haven't seen it either. I really want to see it.
I've heard it's really, really beautiful.
Yes, that's what I've heard too. I think it's, yeah. Go ahead.
And there's so many people that I know that are in the film.
Oh,
the dancers. Like I know several of the Sharks, and it's really fun to see. Just like back in the 1960s in the other film, they're using the New York Broadway community, in the film.
wow. I mean, I'm getting kind of nervous now because I'm actually talking to somebody who knows some like big people and you're a big star yourself. I'm kind of kidding. Well, I'm not really kidding, but anyway, yeah, I actually was in a production of West Side Story from New York here in the Bay Area, like, gosh, 15 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I played Shrank and the guy at the dance. I forget his name.
Oh, yeah.
The terrible Detective Shrank, and who's just awful, abusive to Maria. I mean, it's just awful. What a great show that is. Yeah.
It's such a good show.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it. So, I was curious. Did you see the changes that they made to the Book of Mormon, or did you hear about?
I have not seen it.
Yeah.
No, I had heard just from like social media. There were specific people talking about how thrilled they were that there were changes. Like it was about time, but I don't know what the changes were. Oh
well, I think that they there's a scene where one of the African people was trying to write an email with a typewriter, and they changed that to an iPad or something because it made it look really stupid. And then there was a part where there was like a white slave owner who was putting some other slaves down, and they made it so that one of the female slaves was doing it. So it looked like they had their own, power. And I just found it like, I mean, I just find it interesting how we're holding a microscope to all these things now, and I'm not sure how I feel about it, honestly. I mean, sometimes I think it's a good idea, and sometimes I think they've gone too far. But
I mean,
did you have to do that? Did you have to? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I don't. I saw Book of Mormon before it opened.
Yeah.
So I don't really remember what was in it, except
it's hard to remember. I mean, it just goes so fast. Yeah. Now, when you wrote this show, The Shards of an Honor Code Junkie, did you have to take into consideration all the things that we're more sensitive to now, in terms of race and gender and those types of things?
Yeah, for sure. So the director of the Trevor Project benefit in 2017, Zai Alakan, who's amazing. He teaches at Juilliard. He was my script consultant on this, so we really worked with like making sure. Oh, and he is POC, so we worked to make sure that like everything was handled appropriately, because there's rape on the album, there's suicide, there Jay Harrison is a performer of color and he plays the villain. So we wanted to make sure that like everything was being treated with respect through this new lens, including the Mormon Church, because like in previous versions of this, it was much more of an attack on the church, where now it's just my story and my relationship with the honor code at BYU, as opposed to saying the church is bad or the people who go to the church are bad. It's now just like really the document, the honor code at Brigham Young University is the villain. I really worked to make sure.
And what is the honor code?
Every student, whether you're Mormon or not, you have to sign the honor code, which has 8 rules. Every semester, you have to go to an ecclesiastical leader, like your bishop or a priest or something, and you have an interview. Things like be honest. There are rules about you can't be in an apartment of the opposite sex past midnight. You can't be anywhere in the apartment except for the living commons. You have to wear clothes that are modest, like clothes down to the knees. You can't drink alcohol, can't drink coffee, all that stuff.
And I'm sure that you followed all those rules to the T, right?
I did not. No, and that's kind of what the album is about how by the character Boy, how he breaks every rule in order to like learn how to self-love.
Yeah, great.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense.
My favorite one. It's so weird. It's called. It's the last rule. Encourage others in their commitment to comply with the honor code.
Oh, geez.
And that means if you know someone who's breaking the honor code, if you don't turn them in, you're breaking the honor code. And so there's this weird like big brother aspect of being a student there. Like you can't even trust the people you live with. Like one of my friends, so she's female and he's a guy and he's gay. So like whatever. And it was coming close to midnight. And it was winter. So he left, and then it hit midnight and then he forgot his jacket. So then my friend opened the door and he took 3 steps in, grabbed the jacket off the couch and left. And her roommate turned her in for breaking the honor code because she was so guilty about like, oh my gosh, I know my roommate broke the honor code. Like, what do I do? So she turned her in. And then my friend got in trouble for having a boy in her apartment at like 12:01.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah. That is this is at Brigham Young.
Yeah.
Wow, that is scary. Gosh.
Yeah. On top of like having to get good grades and like, you know, being a musician, on top of that, you're like living this kind of very intense, you know, regime style life.
Now, what about people who go there who aren't Mormon? They still have to follow the rules.
They still have to follow the rules, but I think it's a little bit easier for them because their ecclesiastical leader doesn't have to be Mormon. So like imagine being Episcopal and going to the Episcopal priest and he's like, are you following the rules? Cool. Like,
oh, I
like,
see. Like, are you a blind eye thing going on here?
Right. Where like if you're a Mormon, you go to a bishop, it's going to be like, are you having sex outside of marriage? Are you having coffee? Are you having unclean thoughts? Like all that rigid stuff.
I was brought up Catholic. It sounds really similar. Mm-hmm. Except for the turning each other in part. I don't remember that we had that.
Yeah. Well, that's a BYU thing, right? That's
okay.
And that's like where I really worked to make sure that everything was really clear on the album, because yes, BYU has the same rules as the Mormon Church, but it goes like steps further. Like you don't have to turn people in the Mormon Church to be a good member of the church.
Oh, that's good. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Wow. So you part of what you're doing is benefiting the Trevor Project, you said, right?
Yeah, in 2017, we had a concert that raised money for the Trevor Project.
And what is the Trevor Project? Can you tell people what that is? Because I think it's a great thing.
The Trevor Project is a suicide hotline for LGBTQ youth, or really anyone who is suffering from suicidal thoughts or suicidal tendencies. So like you don't have to be part of the LGBTQ community to call the number, but that's just like they specialize in queer youth. And it's wonderful. They have, and the reason I chose the Trevor Project back then was I didn't know it existed. My friend didn't know it existed. And like, had we known, it could have been a wonderful resource for my friend, So
Seems like things are changing, and I hope they keep changing for the better for LGBTQ people.
yeah, I mean, I think it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Like right now, we're fighting. Even in New York, we're fighting for our trans brothers and sisters. 2020 was was it 2021? Either 2020 or 2021 was the deadliest year on record for trans people. And even in New York State, the walking while trans bill just got eradicated like last year, which meant if you were wearing clothing of an opposite sex, you could be arrested. And it was a way to like target sex workers and trans people, so the police could arrest them because, you're wearing someone of the opposite sex's clothing. So that got eradicated last year.
Well, thank
we
God.
still have a long way to go. So I know, thank God.
In San Francisco, you don't even have to wear clothes, so that's not a problem here. You don't. It's crazy.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, there's guys in the Castro I know that walk around naked every weekend if it's warm enough. It's hilarious. I mean, to me, it's hilarious. I mean,
Yeah, of course.
I don't know why. The other day I was over there with my wife, and we were listening to a friend of ours sing on the street. She had a permit, and she's really good friends with one of these naked guys. And he just came up and started talking to my wife, like she was sitting, and his waist was like.
Oh my gosh.
So it was hilarious. Anyway, that's another issue. So I think it's time for a break. And why don't we listen to one of the beautiful musical numbers on the Shards of an Honor Code Junkie. This is a short clip of the tune called The Wasteland.
Heavenly Father, are you out there? Can you hear me pleading? Please can you come save me from all this hell here? Don't ignore my prayer. I don't know where you have gone, and I have nowhere left to go. But without the wind, I don't know why you'd run and try to fly.
Are you working on anything right now? Anything new?
Yes.
Is it a secret?
I mean, no, it's not a secret. I've been touring with Tina Burner. We're doing shows. She's a drag queen. But I'm working on my next album, hopefully it happens, is going to be 2 short mini musical theater operas. One is like a F. Scott Fitzgerald short, and one is another short. And it's going to be called Insomnia, and it has to do with like the difficulty of sleep and like what happens when you have a lack of sleep. So it's going to be like one person and one person. So only 2 singers.
Oh, okay. Kind of like the last 5 years, but around insomnia.
I mean, yeah, sure. They don't interact at all. They're just two completely isolated, like 30-minute pieces.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For singer, string quartet, and piano. That's kind of what my idea is, and I've been working on that. So.
I have insomnia.
Oh, I did too.
Quite often.
Wake up every day at 4, and then my list of anxieties are running through my head.
Oh, see, I got the same damn thing.
Yeah.
I wake up I go through like one sleep cycle, and then I wake up, and then I have to half the time I have to get up for like an hour, and then I go.
Okay.
And then it sucks.
Yeah. I was talking to people about like, why do lots of people wake up between 3 and 4:30 every day? It's like a very common thing with our anxieties, and apparently it has to do with our evolution. Back when we were hunters and gatherers, that's when the wolves would strike.
Oh,
and so we evolved to wake up at that time to protect our family.
Oh, that makes sense. Huh.
So it's just something that's been sticking around.
Wow. Thank you, wolves.
Yeah, right.
I bet we know some of the same people. I don't want to start name dropping. Well, maybe I will.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know Sutton Foster?
Not personally, I know of her.
I do. I know her personally.
Oh.
I worked with her once. I was the photographer, and she was working this big benefit out here for a company that I work with. And I'm good friends with James Monroe Iglehart. And I know somebody you might know. Do you know Michael Balderrama? No. Oh, there's so many people in New York. Forget it. I won't do this. I mean, doing this is like the stupidest thing I ever. I forget it's New York. Like in San Francisco, people actually know each other.
Right. Like,
But in New York, there's like thousands of performers. Like, what am I doing?
do you know Leslie Margarita? Do you know Rebecca Luker?
It makes no sense. Yeah, that's the last time I'll do that. Yeah.
I mean, I know of those names. I just don't know them personally.
Yeah.
Or maybe I've met them at a gala, but like we're not friends.
Yeah. So what's it like being married to a drag performer? Is there because I'll tell you for me, like I've been in a couple of shows with drag performers and like they're on stage with their persona and then like when they're tired they get backstage and it's so hilarious to see a guy in a dress like letting his voice drop, sitting like a man spreading.
Yeah.
It's just the most. I just find it like so much fun, and I don't know. It must be like so much fun. I don't know. It just seems like fun to me.
I mean, I feel like drag is just so much part of my life because I'm married to Marty and the touring with Tina.
Yeah.
But with Marty, their persona, I would say that Marty's exactly the same whether they're in drag or not, but drag is just a little heightened. Like they go into performer mode. So when Marty's home, Marty doesn't like to be in drag outside of the gig. They'll get ready at home or get ready at the gig, and then we'll take it off when the gig's over. It was much more interesting during COVID when like Marty was performing a lot on Zoom, and so like the drag character was at home a lot more. That was an interesting experience, but we're very lucky that we have space uptown, and so Marty has a drag room, so everything's kind of like behind a door, which I think also helps.
Oh, that's good. I see. That makes sense.
They can keep their mess behind the door.
Yeah, right.
Keep their makeup
Yeah. All the accoutrement of being a drag performer. Now, if hopefully this goes into performance, like, is there a book written, or would you just use the narration that's on there?
There is a book.
Mm-hmm. And let me just say, book, for those who don't know, book means like the script, the talking part of a musical. Yeah.
Right. So this is definitely a book musical. It has been edited down for the storybook format. Like I really wanted it to be like an LP, just with one turnover. But there's really not much missing. Just a lot of like action, like dialogue that would have to happen to understand the action, because Allison Fraser really is acting like stage manager a little bit. Like this happened, like, a white feather floats down from the sky. That would just be an action thing, right? But there is a book. There's a lot more dialogue between Boy and the friend who commits suicide. There's a lot more of that. And then there's a lot more to do with like the protest when Soul Force happened to like change the rules. And there's a lot more to deal with like the actual rape scene. Those are kind of like the big ones that are missing.
It's called The Shards of an Honor Code Junkie. You can listen to it on Spotify. Can they buy it? Can we buy it?
Mm-hmm.
And how do we buy it?
iTunes or Amazon. Mm-hmm. But also if you go to my website, blakeallen.org, you can actually buy physical copies. And I mail them. And we also have like cassettes that are like a USB cassette. So like if you don't have a car that has a CD player, you can also like get a cassette with a USB.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, because there's so many people. A lot of people don't have CD players anymore. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
It's true.
I have an external one because I needed one because the computer I built didn't have one.
I know.
Yeah. Now you're working with a performer from RuPaul's Drag Queen show.
Yeah, RuPaul's Drag Race.
Drag
season
Race.
13.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tina Burner.
Okay.
So she's a New York legend. She's my height. I'm 6'6". She's about 6'5". Has wider. She's like a linebacker in drag. That's kind of her joke. And so I met her years ago. We were on a show called Shade Queens of NYC together, and then we turn cult classic films into cabarets. Like we are currently doing How the Bitch Stole Christmas, which is based upon The Grinch, and but we have a show called Maybe This Time, which is her life story with Broadway songs, and we're touring the world with that right now.
Oh, great. And where are you going to be next? And where are you coming up?
We are going to be, we're having a little tiny break for the holidays, and then we're going to be in Canada. So Edmonton, Vancouver. Mm-hmm. That's where we're going to next in January. And then we're going to Orlando and Tampa, Palm Springs. We were just in Jonesboro, Arkansas.
Wow.
Which has been my favorite. That's been my favorite stop, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Well, because of the people. Because the people that we stayed with were so nice. They I don't know. They picked us up from the airport. It was really great. There's like this random, really good drag community in this tiny town, 2 hours north of Little Rock.
Yeah. When I used to have to go to Utah, I found similar thing. Like if I went, I was younger, so I would go to bars and stuff. It was much more there was only a couple places you could go, and it's in Salt Lake, and the people were just more it had more cohesion, because
for sure
they're against the 99% of everybody else who doesn't want them to be there. Right. It was a lot of fun. Whenever I had a blast every time I would go to Utah, or Salt Lake City.
That Utah has that weird alcohol law where all alcohol is much less.
Yeah,
so the beer has 2%.
Yeah, it's the 4.2 beer. Yeah,
yeah.
It's like weak cider
right.
level. Yeah. And so can they find that schedule for your performances with her on your website?
Well, I should not on my website, but it's usually on Instagram. So
okay.
Go to the Tina Burner. TheTina Burner, or mine, which is Blake Allen Presents.
Okay.
BlakeAllen Presents.
Okay, on Instagram. Okay.
Yeah, that's we post where we're gonna be.
Okay, I'm just writing this. I'm gonna put it in the notes so everyone can see it. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Great. So, the Shards of an Honor Code Junkie. Everybody check it out. Spotify, or if you want to really help out, buy the CD or the USB plug thing, whatever you call those. Yeah. Hey, it's been great talking to you, Blake. Thank you.
Oh, I've had such a great time. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, and thanks for asking good questions.
You're welcome. Take care.
Have fun in San Francisco.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that chat with Blake Allen. I know I did. What a great, talented young man he is. I'm looking forward to listening to all of his future work. I hope his show makes it to Off-Broadway or Broadway one day. I'll be the first one on the plane heading to New York City, the Big Apple. Thanks so much for listening. If you've made it this far, you are a trooper, and I love you. And I want to wish you happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy whatever you celebrate or don't celebrate. And I'll see you soon. I'll talk to you soon. We have some more guests lined up. I have a couple in the hopper I still need to post and edit. And remember, if you like this show, please tell your friends. And if you don't like it, tell your enemies. See, I win either way. And have a merry, merry, merry Christmas and a happy New Year. Ho, 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 ho. And until next time, I will see you on the boards. Hasta la vista, everybody. Keep safe.
feeling